Hello and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Welcome. The Nigerian education system has been in turmoil for several years running. Every administration, even from the military era, has been confronted with the challenge of getting the education system working, particularly at the tertiary level. In spite of several efforts in this regard, not much appears to have been achieved. Administration after administration has had to contend with school closures and shutdowns occasioned by either academic and non-academic workers' strikes or students' protests demanding better working conditions and conducive learning environments. During the life of the current administration alone, public universities, polytechnics, colleges of education, and other tertiary institutions have been shut down several times, sometimes for as long as between 6 and 9 months at a time. In the process, students have been made to lose whole semesters or even sessions. The long and short of it is that the tertiary education system has gone comatose. Those who can afford it send their children and wards either abroad or to expensive private institutions for studies, while the children of the poor are left to languish at home. In the present instance, almost all the staff unions of tertiary institutions in the country are at daggers drawn with the government. They are either already on strike or have issued notices of plans to down tools for one reason or the other. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has recently commenced another 12-week strike after just ending a 3-month warning strike, during which it could not reach accommodation with the federal government on any of the issues at stake, including the lingering renegotiation of the 2009 agreement is signed with the government for the proper funding of public universities. The Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Universities, NASU, the Colleges of Education Academic Union, and Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, are all up in arms with threats to either resume suspended industrial actions or start fresh ones. The consequence is that education is going downhill. This is as politicking for the 2023 elections takes center stage. Appeals from different quarters, even by President Muhammadu Buhari in recent days, appear not to have fallen on fertile grounds to yield any desired results. And all of these as students bear the brunt of the fight between government and the unions. On the program today, we shall try to understand the underlying issues from the perspective of the unions and the students, and see if we can fashion a way out of the rather awkward situation. Well, my guests on the program today are Dr. Smart Olugbeko, who is the president, Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union, COASU. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Olugbeko. Also joining us right here in the studio is Anderson Ezeibe. He's the president, Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP. Thank you so much, Dr. Ezeibe, for joining us.
Thank you very much.
And we are joined virtually by Comrade Victor Ezenagu, who is the National Public Relations Officer of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS. He's joining us virtually via Zoom from Dutse in Jigawa State. And we are also joined by Professor Emmanuel Osodeke. He is the president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU. Thank you, Prof, for joining us. Prof, can you hear me? Hello, Prof, can you hear me?
Yes. How are you? Fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Let's begin with you, Prof. The Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, which you lead, has just commenced another round of strike after a 3-month warning strike. Now, let us get to understand what the main issues are. I mean, all along it's been talk about a renegotiation of the 2009 agreement the union had with the federal government about revitalization of the universities. Now, are there any other issues? Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Okay, there are other issues, like you have said, issue of renegotiation of agreement, the issue of UTAS, which is federal government trying to force us into joining a salary system that is against the workers' interest, and it's against all workers in the tertiary institution, which is the issue of the IPPIS. Then there is issue of decision panel to universities, which report has not out till now, among other issues. These are the major issues we have in what is ongoing presently.
So where exactly is the union with the federal government in terms of negotiations? Because it appears that each time you start a negotiation, before it takes off, it breaks down. And only yesterday, President Muhammadu Buhari did appeal to you and your union to please call off this strike.
Yes, thank you very much. You see, for us, appeal is not an issue. The major thing is doing what we know is needful. That have been there since 2009. We were on strike in 2020, and for quite a long time, and they promised to do the same thing. And when we called off the strike, they did nothing. And we have been pushing for them to do the needful all this period, and they didn't do them. We started on strike in February, and in May, we have been told that we'll go back, we will do them. Why didn't they solve all these problems within the last 12 weeks? And then they will not be strike or strike again. So that's what we're saying. We are appealing to the president, just like he was begging us, want to beg him also, as the leader of this country, to take the interest of this our student at heart and do the needful, which can be done within 1 or 2 days, and not appeal. We want action, and it can be done just the way they have done to ensure that those who were flying did not miss their flight recently when they threatened. They should also use that means, emergency, that is emergency education system. That is the way to go. And it will not take time. 2 or 3 days, this issue will be resolved.
How much is involved or at stake here?
Well, the amount at stake for revitalization, they were supposed to release 200 billion on annual basis to the universities, which they have not done, all public universities, which they have not done. 2, we have issue of areas of our EAA and academic allowance, which they are not paying. We finished negotiation in 2021, and they have gone back to get permission to sign. Till now, they have not come back. After 1 year, they are forcing on to IPs, and we said they challenged us to produce alternative to IPs that will better to IPs, which we have produced, and they tested. And from their tests, from what the result we have, that program scored 99.3%, and they still say not 99.3%. And they still say so that's our crisis.
All right, Prof. Only recently, the president of the Nigerian Senate, Ahmed Lawan, did say that the agreement that was entered into by your union with the federal government in 2009 was entered into in error. I'm using his word now. And that agreement was not a realistic agreement.
Sorry, it's not clear. I can't hear you well. I can't hear you.
Okay, let's try and rectify the audio problem, Prof, and then we will come back to you very quickly. But in the meantime, let me turn to my guests who are right here in the studio. Dr. Smart Olugbeko is the president, Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union, KWASU. Just like the Academic Staff Union of Nigerian Universities, it appears the Colleges of Education Academic Staff also have a bone to pick with the federal government. What are the issues?
Thank you. The most important issue that we talk about has got to do with the area of funding. And funding is highly essential and important to the running of any institution. But it is to our greatest chagrin that government has willfully neglected the issue of funding, and colleges, they have not been funded over the years. And when we talk about...
How many years are we talking about here?
We are talking about since 2010, when the agreement was signed. The agreement was actually made in 2009, but it was finally signed in 2010.
That's 12 years wrong.
Yeah, 12 years ago. And after that, we had what we called need assessment in 2014, of which government itself constituted the committee that went around all colleges of education in Nigeria to carry out an assessment and to look at the level of infrastructural decay in all these colleges as they affect teaching and learning. And the committee came up with a report, and 396 billion naira was discovered as the total amount needed to be able to revitalize colleges of education in Nigeria. And in 2017, because of the years that had lapsed, government did a review of the report and came up, with a decision that the money had gone beyond 396. It has now become 465 billion naira for us to be able to have functional colleges of education in Nigeria. And for us to do that, we kept on mounting pressure on government to do the needful by making available the money to make these colleges to be functional. In 2018, we embarked on a strike because, as you could recollect, that our union rarely go on strike. And it's not because of the fact that we do not want to, but because we understand the implications of strike action. And we rarely use that tool. And rather, we kept on engaging government so that government could actually show understanding. And in 2018, we embarked on strike. And 2019, government came. We met with the former chief of staff, his rest in peace, Abakari, and we met with them, leading the government delegation, and they agreed that they will give 15 billion naira at that level, for each year for us to be able. And that letter was communicated to the Ministry of Education. And we expected that the money would be paid, and from the past, because it has to be paid in arrears, for us to be able at least to get this money to revitalize all these colleges. And at the end of the day, till we talk, that money has not been paid. We kept on mounting pressure on government. We kept talking to government. Last year, when we met with government, they asked us to even come up with modalities for disbursement of this money to colleges, that we come up with criteria, which we did. And from that time till now, this money has not been released. This is not about lecturers' emoluments or salaries or allowances. It is about teaching and learning. It is about infrastructure. State colleges of education and all these are involved in the need assessment and involved in the money we talk about. So it's not just about federal colleges. It's about colleges of education. It's a system-wide that we want to reform. It's a system-wide that we want to make functional. So it's all about colleges of education.
Does EPIS apply to colleges of education that are operated at state level?
Data?
EPIS. Do colleges
EPIS is for federal colleges. Some state colleges, they have different pay platforms. Some are still paying directly. Some are using different pay platform. And they have not been serious level of complaint at that level. And those where they have complaint, we have engaged them and we have made a lot of improvement at that level. But it's federal government that are insistent and has talked to EPIS because of the reasons best known to them.
Mm. Okay, let's turn to the polytechnics. Mr. Ezebe, what exactly is the grouse of the polytechnic lecturers, of the academic staff union of universities? Because only a few days ago, you did come out to say that government is, again, like with ASU and with KWESU, not playing fair, not being sincere.
Well, it will interest you to know that the issues are basically the same. Yeah. The issues bordering the tertiary education sector in the nation is basically the same. And at the heart of it is the fact that government in Nigeria over the years has refused to demonstrate the right level of commitment to tertiary education in this nation. That is where all of these problems hang. Now, The issues of funding, they are there. They've been overflogged. Our comrade president of ASU and the comrade president of COASU has, talked about this. Since 2014, that the needs assessment survey teams came back with their reports for the polytechnics. It was about, it's about 826 billion. And as we speak, not a penny has been, sent from that, amount to revitalize infrastructure across public polytechnics and colleges of technology in Nigeria. So, and we are talking about, 2014, that is 8 years behind. And you can imagine what inflation has done to that figure as we speak. Still, the government has refused. In 2017, they made the offer of 15 billion naira in lieu of implementation of this same needs assessment report. As we speak, in this studio, 5 years down the line, not a penny of that 15 billion has been released anywhere. The issue of the payment platform as canvassed here has already, it's been overflogged. It's the same challenges as we speak. In third-party deductions, made by IPPIS in the past 2 months has not been remitted, to beneficiary, cooperative societies in different polytechnics in Nigeria. So the problems are basically the same. Now, I would just, like to lend, another note from the angle of supervision and regulation. Because no matter the amount of money you inject into the system, if the appropriate framework is not deployed with respect to supervision, with respect to regulation, then it may not be money well spent. You may not be able to have value for the money. And when we are talking about supervision, we are looking at the agencies of government responsible for ensuring that these institutions are running according to the mandates, leading, to their establishment. And we have issues at that level. We have issues at the level of regulation. And we have continued to question the reason behind, the proliferation of polytechnics and colleges of technology at the public level without, commensurate expansion with respect to funding. As we speak today, because of deficiencies, in regulation, standards are not being kept. The teaching and learning conditions across the sector, is abysmal, is not coherent. We have, in some states where salaries are owed 30 months, and yet teaching and learning, there is pretense about teaching and learning, because I know, just, as much as you also will agree with me that there can be teaching and learning where lecturers are owed for 30 months. That is in Abia State. In Benue State, our people there are on strike currently. They are owed salaries. In Plateau State, it's the same story. In Ogun State, it's the same story. In Osun State, it's the same story. In Bayelsa State, it's also the same story. In Edo State, it's also the same story. And we have not been able to deploy the right level of regulatory instruments to whip these proprietors in line. You must not establish, these institutions. If you want to establish them, then you must establish them to be functional and run according to their mandate. You don't establish them to come and, deplete, the resources in TED Fund so that you start awarding TED Fund grants. If you visit these institutions, they are TED Fund institutions. They are TED Fund polytechnics. The state governments that have established them don't commit any fund at all, for infrastructure. None. They also don't commit funds, for salaries, payment of salaries. And that is why, of course, TED Fund cannot pay salaries. Their mandate does not, extend to that. And that's why you have salaries in these, in these places owed. And so we are questioning, the issue of regulation. And we are saying that because regulation is national in outlook, that governments can short-circuit this issue of concurrency, saying that the federal government does not have any role to play with respect, to the state-owned institutions, by using the instrument of regulation to ensure that if you are establishing a polytechnic or a college of technology, there are certain basic minimum standards that you must adhere to, and such standards will include provision of infrastructure, appropriate and prompt payments, of salaries, the right level of retirement age being deployed, and all of that, so that we have the appropriate standards, irrespective of whether, the Polytechnic is federal, whether it is state, or whether it is, is even private. Because what is being awarded today, the certification levels across the polytechnics and colleges of technology as we speak, is the ordinary national diploma and the higher national diploma. None of it is state national diploma. None of it is state higher diploma. None of it is private national diploma. None of it is private higher, diploma. They are all national diplomas, and therefore we expect to have the same standards. As we speak, we are not having that. And so we have picked issues, with regulation as well.
All right, let's quickly take a short break, and when we come back, we will be going straight to Duse in Jigawa State, where the NANS PRO is standing by the students, as it appears, at the grass that is suffering in the big fight between the two elephants, that's the government and the academic and non-academic staff unions on the one hand, and the federal government on the other hand. We'll be back in a moment.
Did you know that AIT's social media handles have all changed? If you are one of the millions of our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, this is introducing to you AIT's new official and rebranded social media handles. Like or follow us now on our Facebook page, Official AIT Live. If you're on Twitter, switch to our new handle at Official AIT Live and activate the notification button to get breaking news and updates on the go. For exclusive short videos and photo news, follow our Instagram account at Official AIT Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Official AIT Live, and enjoy live streaming of news and your favorite programs, where you can also watch our broadcast materials at your own convenience. Note that Official AIT Live is the only authentic social media profile name with all the handles on our website ait.live, with a notification prompt to accept and receive breaking news and updates on the go. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube platforms on your smartphone, tablet device, laptop, and desktop to follow us now. AIT.live. On air, online, online.
All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Dr. Smart Olugbeko is President, Colleges of Education, Academic Staff Union, COASU, is right here with me in the studio. He's joined by Anderson Ezebe, he's President, Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP, also here with us in the studio. And we're joined virtually by Professor Emmanuel Sodeke, who is the President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and Comrade Victor Ezenago is the NANS National Public Relations Officer, who is joining us from Duse in Jigawa State. Comrade Victor, I hope you are there, right there with us. In all of these, it appears that the students are the ones who are hardest hit because, as it were, some of you have stayed at home for upwards of 9 months or thereabout, as the case may be at any one time. And it appears your education is being truncated by default, by the actions of government and, of course, by the actions of your teachers. How is NANS tackling this situation?
Okay. Good afternoon. I don't know if you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear, Victor. Go ahead.
Because I can barely hear you also from here. Good afternoon. From what I heard from you now, you asked what's our view as regards to the whole strike action by our lecturers. I suppose that's what.
Yes, go ahead. That's exactly what we are.
To us, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Victor.
But network. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
To us, we are no longer happy with the whole thing. We've been patient, believing the government and ASU will resolve their impasse. Unfortunately, the other union, the ASUP and COASU, have also joined the strike, and we are not. It means there's a total shutdown of all campuses in Nigeria. It means all our students are meant to go back to their respective homes. It means there's a tendency of crime increasing on the streets, because when people are idle, they will have no option than to stick to crime. From our angle as NANS, we vow to ensure that there shall be no political activities until these strikes are resolved. We want to also appeal to our lecturers, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, the ASUP, COASU. We want to appeal to them also to be open-minded while going for the renegotiations as regards to their demands. They should also consider the current challenge of the country in making their demand, and then know that in negotiation is a give and take thing, so that we can go back to our respective homes, our respective campuses. This is our humble appeal and view. But as far as our stance in ensuring that no political activities goes on in Nigeria, as long as we're at home, there shall be no primaries, and we meant it. I mean, the governor do say, but we came here for a pre-convention where all the SUG presidents, senators of NANS are gathering from the Tertiary State and FCT to Jigawa State Polytechnic for us to take a decision. It's unfortunately my network here is not very bad, but I hope I've been able to pass the message across to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Victor. Yes, you were loud and clear here. We were hearing you, but of course you were not hearing us very clearly. Would have loved to ask some more follow-up questions. For instance, how does NAN intend to stop the political activities that are currently ongoing? Because that's one of the resolutions you have put forward. You said that NANS will not allow party primaries to go on. How does the union intend to do that?
I didn't hear you.
The line is not clear.
Okay, Victor, your line is not very clear. Let's turn to Prof, the ASU president, Professor Sodeke. Yes, let's talk to Professor Sodeke. You have talked, there is a common thread running across all the unions, and the talk is about the facilities in the universities, in the polytechnics, in the colleges of education, revitalization of the infrastructure in these places. What exactly is the state of infrastructure in Nigerian universities as it is today that has made you to ask government for a revitalization fund which has not been responded to all these many years?
Hello? I'm not hearing you well, but can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Prof.
Okay. As of today, the state of infrastructure, that's what you requested for.
Yes.
You see, we expect our journalists to go around our universities to look at the state of infrastructure. As I speak with you, in some of the lecture theaters that are built for 200 people, you see 500 students taking lecture in the lecture theater that should have built for 200. You go to a laboratory for built for about 14 or 20 people, you see 1,000 students taking practical in a laboratory with 10 or 20 microscope for 1,000 students. You go to the hostels, it's even worse. But the hostels, even animals cannot live in them. But students stay in those hostels. You have seen some recently. I'm going to send you a clip of what we found out in 2012 during the need assessment program. That will tell you the state of our universities as of today. It's not different in polytechnic education. The same thing. And we are saying upgrade them in such a way that we can have lecturers from all over the country. We can have students from all over the country going to have lecture in our university, like you have in Ghana, you have in South Africa, and our neighbors. No student is coming from outside because our facilities are poor. The reason for the revitalization fund is that let's upgrade our facilities in such a way that we can attract students from all over the world, attract lecturers from all over the world, just as our lecturers are going outside to lecture, and our students are going outside for schooling. That is what we want, and the government is shying away from it.
Now, you also talk about the renegotiation of the 2009 agreement. Is a key demand that you have always been making. What exactly is wrong with the 2009 agreement? I mean, this is 2022, and that's about 14, 15 years ago when you had that 2009 agreement. I personally have asked this question over and over again. Why should ASUU be asking government to meet the demands contained in the 2009 agreement 15 years after, when it actually should be asking for a new agreement entirely?
Thank you very much. In the 2000 agreement, there is a section that says that agreement should be reviewed every 3 years. Every 3 years. So this thing should have taken place in 2012. But the government have resisted coming to review this agreement. That's why we have been seeing a number of strikes in the past 10 to 13 years, as you have said. That's why you have the strike. One of the things we have to talk about those strikes is the issue of negotiating the agreement that will reach into 2019 that become obsolete. But in 2017, we now agree, let's go back, and they set up their team, we'll set up our team, and we'll start the negotiation. It took 4 years, up to 2021, to have a draft agreement, which the government team took over to their principal, which is the government, to give them permission to sign or make amendment. But still they therefore come back. So it's not our fault. It's the government that is resisting renegotiating those agreements. That's why you're having the crisis you're having in the sector today, in the tertiary education sector. I think the same thing applied to all the unions. The government has refused to renegotiate those agreements we reached in 2009. That's the crisis. So we should appeal to government to renegotiate it. Let them sign the one we have agreed to in 2021.
All right, Dr. Olukbeko, I need you to respond to that too, because it appears you are on the same plate.
Yes, the agreement, as I had earlier said, was signed in 2010. It was supposed to have been renegotiated 3 years after. We kept on matching prayer on government to do this, but government, keep resisting it. In 2018, we came to agreement to start a renegotiation, and we submitted our draft. And government was, just as the cabinet president had said, was to go back, to its principal and come back to us. And since then, government has not come back. And after that, there was a dissolution of the governing council, and which couldn't make it possible. And when the governing council was reconstituted in 2021, we expected that government would come back to roundtable. They had requested for our team, which we had represented to them 3 times, and government has not come up, to say, oh, this is our team, let us start. They kept on sending letters requesting for the same thing that we had sent several other times, and that's to tell you that why is government resisting renegotiation?
Did you interpret that to mean some means of stalling the process?
Yes, government is just, giving delay tactics just to make the thing protracted because it is not ready. And as a result, because they understand that some of the provisions in the agreement of 2009 will have become obsolete, and they wouldn't want to go into it because they understand the content of the last agreement and they didn't want to go into it. So government kept running away from it, and that is why we are stuck as we are.
Because even then, Mr. Ezebe, even then, in terms of cost, what was in 2009, 2010, or 2012, in terms of cost, can no longer be viable in 2022.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a common fact that the conditions of service in tertiary institutions in Nigeria as we speak, and as governed by the outcome or the content of the 2009 agreement, whether in the universities, in the colleges of education, or in the polytechnics, can no longer hold because of reasons that we all know. Inflations in multiple figures across, since 2010 till date. The emoluments can no longer fly. That is, that's the fact, and that underlines the reason why the renegotiation is very, very important, to all the unions in the tertiary landscape. Now, for the polytechnics, the renegotiation process, has commenced or has recommenced. It started actually in 2017. There was a break for reasons best known to governments. They broke off when we made our submissions in early 2018. But then, we have gone back to the table, and we are now, at the subcommittee, stage. And it will really, really, please us to see government respond to our demands, because we have already made our submissions, listing, our demands. So it will please us to have government, respond, so that we can conclude, that particular exercise, in good time, because it will actually define the future, or, for the Nigerian Polytechnic system as it affects, Nigerian polytechnics.
Prof, let me come back to you and to tackle the issue of EPs and UTAS. You came up with an alternative payment platform, UTAS, which you said had about 99.3% success after trial. But of course, we also know that SANU and NASU have rejected UTAS, and they have come up with what they call University Peculiar Payroll Payment System, which they say is far better than UTAS. Have you come to some kind of arrangement with SANU and NASU on this? Or, because when you are fighting from on a divided front, it seems to give the opposition, which is government in this case, some strength. Is this a divide and rule tactics? Do you see it that way?
We rejected IPs. We have looked at it as intellectuals and said it would not function. But government forced it, and midway some of this union voluntarily joined IPs. Voluntarily joined IPs. But thank God they have found out that it failed. What I will appeal to them to do is to come back and join IPs. When IPs was being tested, one of the group that tested IPs was, they call it the end users test. And it was conducted by members of this other union you talked about. One person in each university, one person from the bursary unit and one person from registry. These are members of those unions. And when they participated in testing it as end users, they scored this 94%. So if your member have scored a program, a solution or a software 94%, I don't see why you are saying you are going to create another one again. So my appeal is that they should join us too. Let's fight. If there's any issue, because in designing this UTAS, we looked at all the agreement that all the unions have reached with government. We look at the condition of service. We look at the laws based on which we develop this program that will take care of all the universities, that we can also transmit and modify to take care of the other union in the Polytechnic and higher education. If we so agree, we can modify them to take their own peculiarity, using their laws, using their condition of service, and we have a model for them. You see, in the country, in the world where things are working, if government have a problem, you approach the universities. But in Nigeria, we have a little problem, headache, they run abroad to go and look for foreigners. What we can do here, and they pay huge amount of dollars to get these solutions. And we have developed something for them that is free. Free, you don't have to pay anybody because to belong to the government. Free. And the government is playing game with it that is not working. When your own tests have shown that it's got 99.3%. It's a pathetic situation in this country. So my appeal to other unions, whether in the universities or in polytechnics, that all of us should join hand, look at this IPPIS. If you have anything you want to add, it's open, you add. But this idea of creating multiple, just to know the government say you are fighting among yourself, we should throw aside. We are the only union that said we will not register in IPs. As I'm speaking to you now, I have not registered in IPs. And more than 70% of our members did not register in IPs because we know that it is wrong.
Dr. Lubeko, can there be a convergence of UTAS, IPs, and U3PS, which is the new one that the non-academic staff are putting forward? Or does the colleges of education also have their own payment platform? Or does it buy into any one of these?
Yeah, to us, as a union, we have also looked at UTAS, and we have considered that to us, just as I had earlier said, UTAS will serve the purpose of lecturers in colleges of education. And the reason is because, as I had earlier said, we look at the structure of academic staff in colleges of education and that of university, conditions of service, condition of promotion, and other criteria, we have similar, criteria. We have similar issues, and we believe UTAS will serve our purpose. And we have at our NEC meeting, decided to key into UTAS as a platform, that can actually, bring all of us together. And I have said it, I've spoken to also some of our colleagues, that government will be happy to have these multiple platforms, because government knows a division has actually been created and a confusion has actually been put into it, and government will come up to say that because you have not agreed among yourself, therefore let us continue to make use of EPs. And we know that government is looking for a way to retain EPs, just as the Community President had said. If a platform comes at no cost to government, and this platform can actually perform the same function, why is government running away from it? We know how much government is spending on EPs on monthly basis, and yet a platform that comes at a no cost, and just as I said, anywhere in the world where government runs into trouble, government looks into tertiary institution for solution. When we're talking about the problem created by COVID-19, what the government in the world, sensible government in the world, did was to go to their various research institutes, into their various tertiary institutions, and asking the researchers to come up with solutions, and that was exactly what happened. And we expect that our nation should have gotten to that level. If we have a UNO that comes up to say, oh, this problem you have, we have solution to it, this is the solution, let us embrace it. But for a good reason, for one reason or the other, government has not done that. But to me, I also want to appeal to our colleagues in other unions that we can find a common front, to have a common platform that we can use. We can bring IPs. If you have peculiarities, we can integrate everything into it, and all of us can work together and have a common payment platform that will solve all the problems.
Mr. Ezebe, the polytechnics and colleges of technology are actually supposed to be the technological bedrock of the country, and I expected that, in fact, they should be the one that will be championing this process. Do you think, or does your union think, that this multiplicity of payment platforms can come to some convergence? There can be some measure of convergence that will make it 100% workable for the tertiary institutions in Nigeria?
Yes, certainly we don't believe in multiplicity of payment platforms at all, and that's why we dropped the idea of pursuing a separate payment platform. The issues about the current payment platform IPs, I believe that all the sectors, all the subsectors, in the tertiary, be it university, colleges of education, and polytechnics, they are all experiencing similar challenges. And therefore, what it means is that if we have a payment platform that has been tested and trusted and found to be correct, just like our comrade president of ASU, has been talking about, about the UTAS, then I think that it can be a model, for deployment in all the other, subsectors. Because tertiary education is actually universal. Yeah. It's the same. The peculiarities are about the same as well. So what is being developed, as in UTAS, can also serve just like in the colleges of education as well as in the polytechnics. I don't. The other payment platform, you mentioned, P3 or so. I don't know about that. I've not seen that. But I think that what has been demonstrated so far with respect, to UTAS, should be enough, for the tertiary education landscape in the country, and that if there is need, for modifications, in areas, I know that, that payment platform is flexible enough, to accommodate such modifications, and then we run, with one payment platform.
Prof, very quickly, let me ask this. There is information out there right now that ASU is likely going to call off this strike by next week, Monday. Is that correct? And what are the conditions that would likely give rise to that?
It's not correct. We never said that, and I don't think we have said that. Our union operates for bottom down, not up down. So we have not discussed that. Yesterday when we met, they didn't give us any tangible thing that we can take to our members. There are promises as we have been having before. I will have told them, let us see concrete evidence, then we can take to our members. That is where we are. We didn't say we are calling off strike on whatever. We didn't say that anywhere, and it's not correct. They are just rumors.
But you are ready to go back to the negotiating table?
We are permanently ready. All the unions are ready. We are ready to go to table to discuss. The government should come up with concrete evidence what they want to do, and not promises that they have been doing the past 14 years, 13 years.
All right, Dr. Luka, Kwasu has given a 21-day ultimatum to go back on strike. How is that panning out? I mean, have you reached out to government? Have you gotten unsatisfactory response from government that has resulted in this step that you want to take?
Yes, the ultimatum was actually decided on the 6th of May at our NEC meeting in FC Okene, and the ultimatum was formally served to government on the 9th of May. And the Minister for Education, the Honorable Minister of Education, invited us for a negotiation on Tuesday. That was 10th of May, and we had an extensive discussion on all the issues. And as he could try, and he made efforts to see what government could do at resolving those issues. But it's 21 days. They still have a very long time for them to meet up with time, and we have said that we will be able to continue to negotiate with them until we discover at the expiration of 21 days if government has not met the issues according to the conditions set out. Then we'll have to revert to our principals, who are the chairman and secretaries from all colleges of education in Nigeria, to give them feedback. And at that time, the decision taken would definitely snowball into the next action.
Is there a threshold? I mean, some minimum standard that you expect government to meet for you to avert this next strike?
The minimum standard is for them to meet the needs. And it has been a minimum, because when we talk about minimum, if we are talking about 465 billion naira in 2017, and we have been magnanimous to say, okay, give 15 billion naira from 2014 down to the for 8 years, and you're talking about 112 billion naira, and that will have been able to solve a lot of problems. That is the minimum we are even given to government out of 465 billion naira. And we are looking at a situation also whereby government will commence negotiation, and that there's no midway to that. Government has to commence negotiation, and other issue, the issue of IPPIs, government has to take a decisive decision on what is to be done to that. Also, the issue of promotion areas is to interest you to know that government has not paid promotion areas since 2016. It's like lecturers taking the same amount of money since 2016, and government has been able to make our colleges not to be able to be functional to the level that the condition of service, the working condition of lecturers has actually been the one that can not actually be proud of. And to us, the minimum we expect from government is to meet these demands.
Mr. Zebe, what for you is the way out?
Well, for our union, as you already know, we are commencing a 2-week warning strike from Monday. Nothing has changed. Our chapters are already mobilized to commence action from Monday, and we are not expecting any form of new agreements. The only negotiation we are going to find ourselves in is the one that affects the 2009 agreement, and that is the renegotiation. Why we are going on strike is because of the unfulfilled portions of the memorandum of action we signed last year, leading to the suspension of our action. We expect minimum wage arrears to be released to our members. We expect the revitalization fund to be released, for the sector. We expect the new regulatory instruments for the sector to be released by our regulatory body. We expect the supervisory agency, the Federal Ministry of Education, to call, some councils and principal officers to order where we are, where we have recorded, incidences of violations of the Federal Polytechnics Act as amended. We expect to see salaries paid in different states where salaries are owed, our members. These are the things that we, that we expect to have from now till the expiration of the 2 weeks, warning strike. If not, then we may be considering an indefinite action the way, our colleagues, in the universities, have gone.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We hope and we believe that somewhere along the line, government will respond to all the unions, at least meet you halfway and see what gets done from there. Otherwise, the entire tertiary education system will be further paralyzed than it is right now, and that's not good for a country as underdeveloped as Nigeria is, a country that aspires to have a quantum leap in terms of developmental strides at this point in time. Dr. Smart Olugbeko, President, Colleges of Education Academic Staff Union, COASU. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sir.
Anderson Ezebe is the President, Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, ASUP. Thank you for joining us right here in the studio.
Thank you very much.
Comrade Victor Ezenagu is the national PRO. He joined us virtually from Duse in Jigawa State. We do apologize that the audio quality wasn't too good, and so we couldn't proceed with more questions to you. Thank you all the same. Thank you so much. And Professor Emmanuel Sodeke is the President of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, who also joined us via Zoom. Thank you so much. And for our viewers out there, we want to thank you for investing your time with us. We look forward to bringing you a new edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.